Welcome back to Koi Recap. Today, we'll continue with the recap of the unfinished part of Sweet Home Part 1. Beside Hyun-su at this moment are Lee Hyuk and his sister, Eun. After learning that Hyun-su has been infected, everyone becomes more cautious. A meeting is held to decide whether to deport or allow him to stay. Thanks to Lee Hyuk's words, the votes are evenly split. But Mr. Kim, the bald-headed man, does not accept this and wants to immediately eliminate Hyun-su. At this moment, his nose starts bleeding. This is the first sign of the transformation into a monster, and he is locked in the same room with Hyun-su. Hyun-su says that to resist the transformation into a monster, he must fight against the voices in his head. After learning about the weapons brought by Hyun-su's group, which were made by Uncle Handuzik, Lee Hyuk asks Hyun-su and Payeon to go upstairs to bring Uncle down because they urgently need a mechanic. While both leave the first floor to accomplish this mission, upstairs in Dusik's room, Mrs. Myongja is finally overwhelmed by the monster within her. However, with a strong desire to reunite with her child, she transforms into a giant and harmless monster fetus inside the bathroom. Hyun-su and Payeon begin their journey. However, in addition to bringing Uncle Dusik down, the inspector also intends to inspect the floors and exterminate the monsters. Hyun-su had to comply. Downstairs at the moment, Mrs. Siona, Mr. Kim's wife, entered the cell with a knife intending to kill her abusive husband. Meanwhile, while Jisoo interrogated Lee Hyuk for exploiting Hyun-su, he revealed that he had planned to intervene in the voting results but didn't need to because the equal number of votes on both sides indicated that besides Hyun-su and Mr. Kim, there could still be others infected. This was confirmed by Mr. Kim's wife being one of them. On the 5th floor, Hyun-su successfully defeated the long-armed monster. They continued to inspect and he discovered a room to open. Inside, he read the diary of the room's owner. It talked about how he was a track and field athlete and had killed his friend, then turned into a monster. This shocked Hyun-su and inadvertently let the monster inside control him. But Payeon helped him regain composure. Both encountered the many-legged monster again, but this time it was much smarter and harder to defeat. Thanks to him and Nurse Park Yuri, they were able to chase away the monster. They both knew Hyun-su was in the process of monsterization, but they were okay with that. They both decided to accompany him and Payeon. At the head of the stairs leading to the 11th floor, they encountered a sleeping monster. So, everyone planned to pass by without waking it up. However, when it was Yuri's turn, it suddenly woke up and aimed straight at her. Payeon rushed to save her, but its speed was very fast and in no time. Both were unconscious after just one blow. Seeing that things were not right, Hyun-su told Mr. and Sherhab to go to Mr. Dusik's room first, and he would stay behind to lure the monster. Downstairs, Mrs. Siena's murderous intent decreased after everyone rushed into the room and stopped her from killing her husband. However, the one really manipulating her psyche and giving her the knife was Hyen. She blamed Mrs. Shaun for not completing the task and left. Meanwhile, Jisoo arrived and noticed signs of monsterization in Mrs. Siena, but she didn't say anything. She went to meet Jae-hoon and told him everything. The two planned to escape, but Lee Hyuk overheard everything and warned about the underground parking door being broken and any action below could be considered suicide. After successfully escaping from the monster site, Hyun-su set a trap and defeated it. At that moment, the monster inside Hyun-su emerged and whispered vile words, causing him to lose his mind. Luckily, Payeon regained consciousness and ran to help him return to normal. They all then met again in Jusik's room and decided to take Uncle down to the first floor to fix the elevator, then come back to pick up Yuri and the kids. However, when the elevator resumed operation, Earl realized it suddenly went up to the top floor and started slowly descending, as if someone was using it. The elevator descended to the first floor, and the person who appeared was the security guard who had gone missing from the beginning. However, by now, he had completely turned into a monster and began rushing to attack everyone. The mistreatment and disdain from the residents of the apartment complex and the manager had made the security guard easily controlled by the monster. He also was the one who shut down all the doors and made the elevator stop working. 2 people, including Ji-hoon, were killed by the security guard. When Hyun-su ran over, it was already too late. The monster inside made him fall into depression for failing to protect anyone. Jisoo rushed to save him but was thrown far away by the security guard. A sharp object from the outside pierced through the fence but was captured by Hyun-su. He used it as a weapon to stab through the security guard's body. The monster outside the apartment sucked out his blood, leaving him just a dry carcass. The battle against the monsters had ended, but now the battle among humans began to erupt. The escapees began to blame Uncle Dusik for fixing the elevator. In another room, during a conflict, Hyen accidentally attacked Jae-ryu, a guy who was extremely concerned about his appearance, causing a severe head injury. At this moment, Lee Hyuk suddenly had the thought that there might still be hope outside the apartment building. So, he asked Hyun-su to go out to investigate. However, this was too dangerous, and Jisoo punched him, shattering the glass because of that foolish thought. In the cell, Mr. Kim had lost his mind by now. The voice in his head kept echoing, and hundreds of eyes stared intently at him. Even so, he still believed that everything was not his fault but the world's fault. Even the monster inside him couldn't stand such a personality. Instead of satisfying the host's desires like others, it even rejected him. Only when Mr. Kim begged did the monster accept and gave him a long, silky hair and a beautiful enough soul for him to apologize for his past mistakes. Mrs. Seon finally mustered the courage to end the damn thing clinging to her life. Thanks to the elevator operating again, Yuri and the two children were able to safely descend to the first floor. Uncle Do-sik had also fixed the cameras, and they decided to plan to reclaim the basement by confronting the three monsters lurking there. While everyone discussed, Hyun-su was having a conversation with Eun. He asked her about her feelings toward his older brother, and she said she didn't like him but wouldn't hate him either. This made him think that perhaps his younger sister, when she was alive, had never hated him as he always assumed. At this point, Haley learned that Mrs. Seo had been infected, so she became frightened and intended to eliminate her immediately before the monsterization process occurred. Therefore, she didn't notice that Jae had woken up and showed signs of being monsterized. Just as she was pushed against the wall, Mrs. Seon regained consciousness and saved Hyun. However, she not only didn't appreciate it but also intended to destroy both of them. This made Mrs. Seon extremely disappointed. Both sides argued until Payeon stormed in. Mrs. Seon and Jae were locked up afterward. The team to seize the basement began to act, and Hyun-su realized that the monsters below were sleeping, so they could proceed quietly without disturbing them. They quickly eliminated them silently but forgot to notice a monster lying on the ceiling. Jisoo was injured when it suddenly attacked. This panicked Hyun-su. He ran up, but the monster inside him held him back and showed him a vision that everyone was dead. However, Hyun-su did not hesitate and stabbed his own leg to wake up. However, by this time, everyone had already defeated that monster. While the team occupying the basement was working, on the first floor, another group consisting of those who hadn't achieved anything yet was debating. Among them was Aunt Byung, who intended to rebel due to hunger. She believed that Lee Hyuk and his group were keeping the food for themselves. Despite opposition from the other two, she stubbornly insisted that her thoughts were correct. After seizing the garage, they began planning to inspect outside the apartment building. Additionally, the food was running out. Therefore, Lee Hyuk planned to go to the nearby grocery store to continue surviving. On the other side, Aunt Byung attempted to deceive Payeon to get more food rations. However, besides being physically strong, he was also very alert. Therefore, instead of using seduction, she made the mistake of using violence and ended up being thrown into a corner. However, Payeon agreed to let her participate in this round of food acquisition plan. Before the plan could be implemented, another problem arose. The electricity was cut off, and it seemed the water would follow suit in a few days. Additionally, Yuri's asthma became a burden as she had run out of medication. Therefore, the conflict between Payeon and Lee Hyuk escalated as one wanted to go to the hospital to get more medicine while the other still focused on the original plan of going to the convenience store. Thanks to Hyun-su's intervention, the plan ultimately changed, and they would go to both the convenience store and the hospital. Meanwhile, under the basement, Uncle Do-sik had completed turning the car into a steel-clad machine to facilitate the task of driving away the monsters. The four people participating in this plan included Hyun-su, Payeon, Mr. Seop, and Aunt Byung. As they set out, Hyun-su realized that today was the 24th, the day before his originally planned suicide. However, now he was leaving the apartment with a stronger will to live than ever before. This reminded him of the reason why he became a keyboard warrior, losing all hope of living. In the past, Hyun-su was an extremely outgoing young man. He was friendly, athletic, and beloved by friends. But then a new student transferred to the school, and although he appeared friendly, perhaps in the eyes of the new student, he seemed fake and disdainful. Therefore, the new student forced the whole class to isolate Hyun-su and used money to bribe thugs to bully him. However, when this reached his parents, his father chose to go to the school and ask for forgiveness for that wretch. Because his father was a manager where Hyun-su's father worked, and only by keeping quiet could their family be protected. This made Hyun-su completely disappointed as no one in his family stood by him. He was also disappointed in himself because even though he was no longer bullied, he couldn't return to his optimistic self anymore. Until one day, he saw the bully enticing a student to jump into a car. In return, he would give the student's mother money for medical treatment. This enraged Hyun-su, and he stepped forward and pushed the bully onto the road. The car stopped just in time, so no one was injured. However, after that incident, his father lost his job, and even the student he saved that day blamed him for causing his mother's death. Since then, Hyun-su's world has been nothing but bleak. Perhaps if it weren't for the attacks of the monsters and his determination, he would never have been able to turn towards the sunlight again. And that's the end of part 2. Please subscribe to the channel to watch the next part. Peace.